Hello and welcome to Sports by Compian. My name, of course, is Stephen Compian, joined here by Mr. Cooper O'Connell himself, has graced us with his presence. Reoccurring guest, how are you today, sir?
I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be a part of such a fine program once again.
Absolutely, we're happy you're back.
After my last stint, I wasn't sure I was getting invited back.
Well, it's just hard to walk you down. You're a busy man, so it's hard to lock you down for these things. But I'm glad we were able to get you back on. We got a lot of sports took place this weekend, including St. Patrick's Day, which led to me not watching as many sports as I might have normally. But I tried my best in between my drinking of beer and just generally being pretty drunk. So anyway, go ahead.
The good thing about St. Patrick's Day is that maybe you were watching less sports, but most Americans were watching more rugby. Because Ireland was playing England in the Six Nations.
This is true. Six Nations was coming to a conclusion, which we will also be covering. But before we get there, MLR had yet another beautiful week of rugby. We saw the Dallas Jackals and the Chicago Hounds go into battle. The Dallas Jackals is the team that Raheem Powell used to play for, but I don't know what's going on. I haven't seen him on their roster. I haven't seen him play at all. And God forbid, Cooper, they still have yet to win a game. So, kind of seems like simple math. You're not winning, put in Raheem, right? I don't know what the difficulty is here.
Well, Raheem's a free agent right now.
Is he?
He's looking for that new contract. Yeah, so he's not on the Jackals right now.
Fuck the Jackals. They shouldn't have let him go.
Maybe that's why they're struggling.
100%.
Maybe their lack of Raheem is
because guess what?
Right now.
Cooper, in the battle of teams who need their first win as a franchise, we have the Chicago Hounds versus the Jackals, and this is more or less outlined. Are you seeing this?
Yeah, well, I think the stakes are a little bit higher for the Jackals.
They've
been around a little bit longer, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is the Hounds' first year. But you see that kind of ball handling? That was nice, wasn't it? Did you see that one?
No. If you pulled up a clip on this screen sharing thing, that would be super nice and helpful. Though.
Yeah, that's what I was showing you. I'm sorry. Let me repeat it for you here. So you still see my screen, right?
I see Dragon Ball Z on YouTube. Is that it?
No. Let me try to reshow.
Maybe that's like the sample one. I don't know.
Could be all kinds of stuff. All right, you seeing it now?
Yes. Yeah, I see it.
All right, cool. So basically. This is in Chicago, Hounds and Jackals, both teams looking for their first win. It was a pretty close game for most of the time. We see here in the second half, the Hounds started to work on taking the lead here. Just great ball movement. And then watch the six. Fucking beautiful. Great catch. Great close.
Wow.
That was the second try for Mr. Dominguez. He had gone out in week 1. Or week 2 for the Hounds with a really severe shoulder injury. He looked very upset about it on the sidelines, and they actually thought they were going to lose it for multiple weeks. Was not the case. Must be a tough batch because I think he straight up dislocated that shoulder. But he came back and scored 2 tries for them on Saturday. The Jackals battled back and actually took the lead again, 22-24 or something like that. Very close game, but Chicago once again got the ball down to Dallas territory, get a penalty. Kick the ball and win by 2 points, Cooper, and they have now found themselves with their first win as a franchise. And as you mentioned, the Dallas Jackals going into year 2 now, still looking for that first win, and they just lost to the Hounds. Cooper, are they even going to see a win this year? Not looking good.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think there's 2 big questions that are kind of looming over the Dallas Jackals right now. I think the first one is, can they salvage their current downward spiral with the draft next year with the first pick?
Yeah. Which they must have had the pick this year, didn't they? Or I guess Chicago may have had it.
Chicago may have had it. I'm not
sure. That might have made sense.
And then the problem is that I think this league's going to keep expanding. So Dallas is going to keep getting bumped for these expansion teams in the draft. It might be harder for them to land that coveted talent. It's going to put them over the hump and get that first win.
Well, that's why they should be developing their own talent.
I think the thing with Dallas that I noticed in that clip, the last season they were losing 50-0, 60-0. They were getting beat really, really badly in all their losses, and that seemed like a pretty winnable game against, obviously not the best opponent in the Chicago Hounds, but Do you think there's been a big jump up in improvement from the Jackals last year, considering where they are right now?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, they're still getting kind of crushed by like some of the bigger teams. Like you saw, like Seattle Seawolves really take it to them. I'm pretty sure the Sabre Cats down in Houston kicked their ass. But for the most part, like you mentioned, they're having much closer games. I think they had a really close game against the Arrows, almost got the win there. Chicago was no pushover either. You know, like they had a decent first game against Old Glory. Old Glory kind of took them by surprise, I think. But after that, they've been really fighting for every one of their games. Like Utah barely beat them. They barely lost to the Arrows last week. So, you know, the Hounds I think are a pretty serious team. But yeah, the Jackals definitely have some making up to do in this league that is ever expanding, as you mentioned. And you know, they're all pretty close. They're all pretty close to each other, and then it looks like the Jackals are kind of lingering behind everybody else. But the defending MLR champions have found themselves in a 2-game skid now. Cooper, they last week got destroyed by NOLA Gold, 35 or 37-5, I believe. And this week they lose to their arch rivals, the New England Free Jackets, who took it to them 33-18. The New York just didn't look comfortable at any point in this game. The Jackets had possession of the ball for a huge portion of it and just kept pounding them. It was actually really close. You know, the final score isn't the best indicator of how it was, around 65 or so. This was still a tied game. In fact, I think New York even had the lead, you know, with like a couple minutes left in the second half, and just kind of got out of hand for New York because, frankly, what we've seen out of the Free Jackets this whole season is just consistent, strong play. Now, they've lost to, I think, the Seawolves is like the only people they've lost to, which no shame in that. The Seawolves are definitely the best team right now. But what we've seen from the Free Jackets is just consistent good rugby play. They're always pressuring. They're not making silly errors. They're guys you can tell are veterans and have been playing together for a while. So look for them to make some noise for sure as we get towards the playoffs. Old Glory, absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, for the New York Ironworkers, what do you see from them right now during this skid that maybe you didn't see while they were still playing really well, winning?
You know, it's hard to say because they got taken completely by surprise by NOLA Gold. Nobody saw that coming last week where NOLA just absolutely destroyed them. Was that a great game out of NOLA? Sometimes. Absolutely. Yeah. Was that just like a great game out of NOLA, or was that a bad game by New York? I'm assuming a little bit of both. This is a veteran team, though. This is a very good team. They played a super close game against the Seawolves and then continued to dominate their next 2 games after that. So they're better than a lot of the teams in this league. I think they just got to figure their shit out. You know, I think it's more so psychological or just some stupid errors here and there. Like I said, they almost had these Free Jackets, but I think the Free Jackets just played a cleaner game of rugby.
Okay, who do you think is the most complete team right now?
Oh, definitely the Seawolves. I think they were on bye week this week, but they were undefeated, and they're looking good. They're taking out. They took out. I think they've already beaten all the best teams so far. So they beat the Ironworkers. They beat Rugby Atlanta. Pretty sure they've already beat the Free Jackets too. So yeah, they're definitely doing some fine work and really demolishing the bad teams. And they just beat the Sabre Cats, who were undefeated last week. So yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that this new exciting league is also wide open.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it's very much.
Disparity is definitely there, but this is anyone's league.
There's a couple teams. Like the Seawolves have won the first 2 championships, and I think it goes New York, and then there's now. So it's very much up in the air, like still for people. No, I'm sorry, LA Guillotines hopped in there and won one before New York. So the Seawolves kind of have the history behind them, but it's definitely a small enough league that things are up in the air as far as who's going to be the dominant force for a while. We've seen the Arrows struggle last season. They continue to struggle this season. Barely beat the Hounds last week, and they lose pretty handily to Old Glory DC, who has quietly stacked 2 wins in a row now. Meanwhile, Rugby Atlanta gets the biggest thrashing I've seen them take, frankly. I don't think I've seen them lose this bad in a while. So, big win from San Diego Legion, really established themselves as one of the better teams out there in the West. Like I said with Atlanta, this is the biggest loss they've taken all season. They've been very competitive in all their games. They barely lost to the Free Jackets, barely lost to the Seawolves. I think they barely lost to New York. So, they're playing all the best teams right now, and this was the biggest loss for them by far. We'll see if they can come back from that. Utah and NOLA Gold. The Utah 2 tries there is almost not indicating of how the game was, because NOLA absolutely destroyed this. I think NOLA is still flying high after their big upset over New York last week because they carried all kinds of momentum into this game. Sort of dominated the Warriors all game long. The Warriors got in there with a couple tries at the very end by some nice play by their wing, but ultimately Nolan Gold had this game in the bag from start to finish. Cooper.
If I had to ask you who the Patrick Mahomes of this league is, who would you say?
Oh, no idea. No idea. I'm barely figuring out a handful of players' names. For example, I barely know the seven for the Hounds. McLean Jones himself. Great hair,
so
great mullet.
MVP favorites right now just turning the league on.
You know what? I think a 10 from New York is like 35, 36 years old. Dude's like balding. Had a hell of a final last year. So he's pretty good. I know the Seawolves actually just got a new fly half. I think he's a rookie. Dude's already playing really well, making all his kicks and stuff. Like I think it was like well into the second game that he finally missed a kick. So he was something like 8 for 8 on his kicks for a while there. He's looking good. I know. I think we'll see some improvement there. It's great to see this league continue to develop, man. And when you watch it, it's good rugby. You know, the Americans are definitely not giving it much of a chance, though. These things get like no views on YouTube.
Yeah, for sure. The sport's still growing at the youth level, which is important.
Yeah.
Because, like, there weren't this many people our age watching rugby, 20 or 30 years ago.
Not at all. No, I had no idea.
Sport and talking about it because we played it growing up, which is becoming available to more and more people.
I never even had any idea what was going on with it. Never saw a game of rugby until I got to Susquehanna and met you guys, which was like, I was like 23, 24, 20, so yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's just not really a thing with youth sports. Like our club, we've been trying to get some high school programs going, but just certain things are dragging our feet. But either way, the point is, I think as more youth rugby starts to develop, it will definitely help. Cause fuck, man, we gotta do something. Team USA sucks right now. They didn't qualify for the last World Cup. It's a mess. Well, for this World Cup coming up, it's very messy right now. They need to do better. But speaking of some countries who do have their shit together when it comes to rugby, we got the Six Nations Championship just wrapped up. I think the Italy captain put it pretty well at the end of this game. He's like, man, this sucks. We didn't win, but we have shown that we have some good rugby to play, and, this is the best tournament in the world, and a lot of these teams who are finishing in front of us are arguably the best teams in the world. So, yeah, it sucks. Wants to do better. Obviously need to do better at this level, but he's right. These are incredible, the teams playing in this tournament. And, Italy didn't come away with a win this year, but they looked good in quite a few of their games. I think they did show some fight. This game against Scotland, they were actually down 19-0 for most of the game, or like 19-3 for most of the game. Suddenly, just towards the end of the game, about 20 minutes left or so, they just intense onslaught, managed to get a try, get up another one as well, just through some good passing, some good kicks over into the corner. I think at one point, their 10 kicked it over to the fullback and just found him in the corner for a beautiful try there, and it just looked like Scotland was reeling. They were suddenly very confused about how to score, about how to keep possession of the ball, and Italy was taking full advantage, man. It came down to Italy having the ball inside the Scotland 22, 1 minute left, and I think Italy conceded a penalty and turns it over to Scotland. Now, Scotland could have just rode this off and kicked it out of bounds and won the game, but no, instead they took it all the way to the edge. Their fly half, King Horn, dude just has the longest legs. It made no sense, Cooper. He's flying up out there, about to pass it, keeps the ball himself, and just outruns 3 Italians. It was crazy, dude. Just you just see these antelope legs as he just outruns all these poor little Italians, and they're just chasing after him, and he goes and gets a bonus try for his country, putting Scotland to finish, I believe, number 3 in this year tournament. So not a bad finish at all out of Scotland. I'm sure they're pretty happy with it. They wanted to do more, of course, but not bad whenever you consider that Ireland and France just looked amazing this year. Any thoughts there on that Italian-Scotland game there, Coop?
I didn't watch that one. I watched Ireland-England on Saturday. I thought that was a great game.
Ireland sure was
in control pretty much the whole time, but England played a hard-fought battle.
They did.
I got to do a lot of explaining to people who didn't know the rules of rugby about what was happening, about why guys put the ball between their legs when they go down, about why guys get thrown in the air when it goes out of bounds.
Were you at a rowdy bar? Were you at a rowdy bar explaining these rules to people?
I was at my buddy's apartment.
Oh,
He had
nice.
about like 15, 20 people there. We were all drinking Guinness. We were all listening to some Irish music, having a good time.
Nice.
It was an appropriate St. Patrick's Day to watch Ireland cap off the Six Nations against England.
I was back in the kitchen making Reuben sandwiches and corned beef meals, and I did complain to the cook many times about the bad Irish music, but he told me it was St. Patrick's Day and I had to deal with it. So we listened to bad Irish music for about 7 hours yesterday. I mean, on Saturday. It was lovely. But yeah,
the more you drink, the better it gets.
You're not wrong. It did start to annoy me less as the day continued. Well, just to hop over to that Ireland-England game, as you mentioned, this was a very hard-fought game. Although it did look like Ireland was in control for most of the game, I think a lot of Irish fans were nervous and wondering what the fuck was going on, why this was such a close game. If you're an English fan, you're obviously not happy with the final result, but this was one of those ones, once again. Like at the 65th minute, suddenly everyone starts scoring a shitload of tries, because before that it was like 10-9 for like most of the game. And yeah, so Ireland definitely gets a couple tries to finish it out. England actually found one themselves. If you're an English fan, you're not happy with the result, but you're also, it's not that bad compared to how you guys just got thrashed last week by France. So I'm sure they're semi-happy with the overall result of this game. Didn't look like total trash, at least, headed out of Six Nations. But England's got some serious questions going into this World Cup. They're looking pretty bad, Coop. Meanwhile, France took over on Wales. Wales actually scored his first here on just a beautiful line-out, but then they proceeded to do no more scoring until like the 65th minute. In the meantime, the French were doing French things, lots of running around his face, lots of getting the ball to Dupont. And, if you were going to ask me who's a Patrick Mahomes, I would say it's Dupont. Now, this is a scrum half. He's not a fly half, but the dude just look at the highlights on this kid. He's fucking ridiculous, Coop. Today he had a run where he breaks into space, and as he's running around, people are trying to get him. He shifts the ball to his left foot and kicks it. So he's a righty and just kicks it left footy perfectly into the try zone. His 15 chases it down for a try, and it's just man, this guy's fucking good. So yeah, he might be the Patrick Mahomes. He was just called the best rugby player in the world last year. So yeah. Dude's good.
I would say it's kind of like the Messi effect in the World Cup, where the average person, doesn't watch soccer.
Right, but you know who he is.
Argentina's games, and it was so visible that Messi was so much better than everyone else. And his kit and his skill set was just miles above even the best players in the field. So I would say if the casual fans watching the Rugby World Cup and isn't really sure what to watch out for, that would be a good thing to keep your eye on.
Keep an eye on Dupont. He's definitely going to do some cool stuff, as the rest of this French team will. They just do cool shit. They play a really exciting brand of rugby, lots of passing around, lots of doing crazy shit. The Italians try to replicate it, but they just can't do it nearly as well, obviously. Anyway, that is Six Nations. It has officially wrapped up. We're going to see Ireland win this thing. They went undefeated, so I believe they take the Nations. France is going to be number 2, with Scotland taking number 3. I believe it goes England, Wales, Italy. So that has wrapped up. Another good time with some rugby. I did want to go through a non-sponsor sponsor for us real quick here, Cooper, before we move on to some XFL action. And that is Clancy's. Clancy's provides, off-brand, if you will, type of chips. And these are some excellent salt and vinegar, some excellent jalapeno chips. They even have barbecue. They got normal Clancy's. Whatever you need, they got your Clancy chip needs provided. So if you are in need of a snack and you don't want to pay top dollar for the exact same shit, look for a Clancy near you, which you can find at Aldi, in case you're wondering where you can find that. Anyway,
I think I will.
Well, you should, Coop, because who wants to pay top dollar for the exact same flavor? Now, the XFL is still happening, Coop. There's still people playing XFL maneuvers. These guys are out there playing football that some people consider to be second-rate football. I consider it still pretty entertaining.
Football is football.
Football is football, man. But this game was interesting. So the Sea Dragons versus the Houston Roughnecks. Now, dude, this game was kind of crazy to watch because it seemed like neither offense wanted to win. And what I mean by that is you could look at Houston's score for the first 3 quarters there. You will see a fat 0. You will see a fat 0 for all of Houston's scores for those first 3 quarters. This Seattle Dragons defense was all over them, they just could not do anything, the Houston team. And this is coming off probably the best quarterback in the league is their guy Brandon Silvers. So they just completely shut him down. He couldn't do shit. Most of those scores are because the defense kept on like picking off the ball. Like I think the defense had something like 3 or 4 interceptions. Let's look that up actually because it was pretty bad. Ben DiNucci tried his best to keep the other team in it. So Severs has 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not terrible, but not great. Yeah, Ben DiNucci had 3 interceptions. Ben DiNucci's like hilarious to watch in this league, dude. The guy just runs around, does all kinds of crazy ass shit, and like sometimes he throws touchdowns, sometimes he throws interceptions. This game he threw a lot of interceptions, a lot of miscommunications with his receivers. It looked like, but it didn't seem to matter. The Seattle, like as I mentioned, the Dragons defense just showed up and completely shut down the Roughnecks, handling their first loss of the season. I personally am pretty happy to see this because I did kind of call that Seattle was playing like they started out 0-2, and I was like, I don't know, man. I think they're better than that because both those losses, they're had the lead in both those games and probably should have won. So now we see them at 3-2, just handed the Roughnecks their first loss of the year. Look out for Ben DiNucci and Josh Gordon. They're out there making some noise right now, Cooper. But DiNucci needs to kind of clean up these interceptions a little bit. Wouldn't hurt. Although his defense is definitely helping him out.
And am I correct that Paxton Lynch also plays for the Roughnecks?
No, he plays for the Orlando Guardians, which we can get to right now, actually. So Paxton Lynch started this game for the Orlando Guardians despite doing absolutely nothing. Nothing, dude. He's been terrible for them. Like they still don't have a win, and he's a huge part of it. He's gotten benched multiple times, and I think this time for good, because once again the offense looked like they were doing absolutely nothing. The Vipers are running away with the game. They finally put in Quentin Darmody. As you can see, not a bad performance out of the kid. Only had 3 incompletions, 256 yards, 2 touchdown passes. The offense looked like they're actually a threat for like the first time that I've seen all year, probably all year. Well, this is the biggest threat I've seen out of the Orlando Guardians. Definitely the best they've looked. I mean, it was against the Vipers, who are also in search of their first win of the year. So it wasn't like either of these teams are super good or anything. But, yeah, Paxton Lynch got benched, and I don't think we're going to see him again, Cooper. I think this is finally it for Paxton, especially since this other guy came in and, actually did something for a change.
Yeah, this made me want to mention an interesting fact that I learned about Paxton Lynch.
Hit me.
He's the only quarterback ever to be benched in the NFL, the CFL, the XFL, and the USFL. Gotten benched in all those leagues.
God bless him.
So, quite the interesting stat. And
it's
no
quite
hate on Paxton Lynch.
No hate, but how are you still continuing to make money? Playing football, it's amazing.
I think it comes down to the fact that he's a high upside guy that hasn't been paying off. He has a lot of talent, but just can't get it together on the field.
Think about it though. Like, didn't he have like 1 good year at Memphis? Like, it's kind of crazy if you think about what's at stake for some of these college kids. If you have 1 good year in college, it could be enough to continue to get you signed by multiple people. I mean, obviously you got to look the part too, but yeah, like I think he had 1 good year with Memphis, and like people were like driving him in the first round, giving him endless opportunities. It's pretty hilarious. But he might have finally met his maker here. He might finally be on his way out, Cooper. We might finally see the end of Paxton Lynch on television playing football.
Well, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for Paxton Lynch to make a comeback here.
All right, yeah.
Great.
All right.
As a wise man once said, they all wrote me off, but I didn't write back. So I'm hoping that Paxton Lynch is
that's a good one.
Writing back right now.
I like that one a lot, actually. That's a good saying.
From Geno Smith.
Oh wow! Really, Geno said that? That's hilarious. He just got paid, our boy Geno. We'll get all over there to the NFL in just a minute. But yeah, so the DC Defenders were another undefeated team. They traveled over to the Battlehawks. Battlehawks looks like it's going to be the hardest stadium to get a win in. They sold out last week, and this week they're equally as loud. And the Battlehawks,
that's awesome.
Yeah. The Battlehawks fans stuck in there, man. They're loud as hell, but this DC Defenders team came in to take care of business. Battlehawks looked good at first, but DC just hung in there, and they got a really good defense that's just like very hard to move the ball against. AJ McCarron, our boy AJ, AJ McCarron, Cooper.
I love Alabama quarterbacks.
Alabama champion. But yeah, he could not get the offense quite going today. He had a decent day, not terrible. 1 interception, 2 touchdowns, 236 yards. But yeah, overall, they just kept on getting stopped by the defenders. I mean, as you can see, the defenders' quarterbacks did absolutely nothing. 90 yards passing between them. So
Yeah, but if you scroll back up, no turnovers, right?
no turnovers, and they basically just handed the ball off to Avery Smith all day. I saw like 2 huge runs out of Avery Smith.
Yeah, 218 and 3 touchdowns.
Dude just ran through people like multiple times. As you can see, he had a 70-yard touchdown at one point. Like, it was the type of shit. Like, sometimes you see these plays and you're like, oh yeah, okay, so that's how that other guy's not in the NFL. Like, so this Abram guy comes steaming through the line, gets to the secondary, and you see the safety come up to hit him. Dude, it looked like he just stopped. Like, he did nothing. He kind of just stood there. And Abram's like, okay, well, I'm going to go around you then. And just went around him and then proceeded to take it to the house. But it was like probably one of the worst attempts to tackle I've seen at a professional level from a safety. But anyway, that said...
I probably wouldn't want to tackle Abram Smith either.
No, he's a big boy, and I'm sure it would suck too. But for sure, if you're getting paid, you got to try a little better.
You're getting paid, yeah.
And
do you think Abram Smith's good enough to maybe get to the NFL next year?
I don't know. It was a good game out of him for sure. I can't say I've been paying too much attention to the guy, but definitely a better game. Yesterday there was a very boring game that took place. I did not watch it, but Arlington Renegades and San Antonio Brahmas. What kind of fucking name is that, dude? Like what?
Formerly the Dallas Renegades, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Either way.
Seattle Dallas XFL game back in like 2020, right before COVID hit.
Word. Yeah,
it was in Seattle. It was right when COVID came through the SeaTac airport, and one of the concession workers at CenturyLink Field had COVID, and he was like one of the first people in the U.S. to get COVID. So this dude was passing around COVID the whole time I was there at this game, and the Renegades beat the Seattle Dragons, unfortunately. It's a rough day for the home Seattle crowd, but
they got COVID on top of that. But you know what? Ben DiNucci was given to that city, and now they're really on the up and up. But anyway, pretty boring game. Don't got a lot to say here. Kyler Stroder continues to struggle. He had a really tough game last week. Doesn't look like he did much this week either. Jack Cohen got benched. He was so terrible. Reed came in. Didn't look like he was too much better. Overall, some terrible offense being played in this game. But yeah, that's basically it. I did want to say real quick before we moved on about this one game coming up next week, which is going to be a dandy. And that is this game. Houston Roughnecks and the DC Defenders should be a really good game, Cooper, because...
A game of the week?
That should definitely be the game of the week, because the Houston Roughnecks were undefeated up until, they had that mishap with the Sea Dragons. And DC Defenders are still undefeated. So it is 4-1 versus 5-0. Should be a hell of a game. Should be some good football to be watched.
Monday Night Football, too.
That is a Monday Night Football game, indeed. Anyway, moving on here. Wait, are these guys going to have a rematch? That's crazy, dude. Look at this shit. So the Renegades went to the Bahamas this week. And then next week, the Bahamas are going to the Renegades. Man, that is some B-level football shit right there. Can you believe that? The old back-to-back game.
Yeah, that's close to that in the NFL. I think I've seen teams like play a team, then have a bye week, then play that same team after the bye week. But
I've seen that too, but never 2 weeks in a row. That's pretty wild.
Also,
but anyway,
I'm looking up the definition of Brahma right now because I wasn't sure what that meant either. And, it is the creator god of the Hindu sacred triad, apparently.
I think you're trying too hard.
That's the definition on Merriam-Webster. So
yeah, it seems like you're trying a little hard with that. It's kind of weird.
I'm just reading what the screen says. I'm
not saying you are. I'm saying whoever.
I'm saying San Antonio is rooted in Hinduism, but at the same time, it's the only thing it's given me.
I'm just saying whoever came up with that name. It seems like you're trying a little hard. Why is it gonna be this intense?
I prefer that than the San Antonio Texans or whatever. The NFL would have made it.
You're not wrong, actually.
San Antonio Commanders.
Yeah, what the fuck, Commanders? I can't believe that got passed. Anyway,
also before we start the NFL, so we talked about rugby, we talked about Six Nations and MLR, we talked about XFL. Let's talk about NFL. Did you watch any March Madness at all?
Not at all, and we don't usually cover it because it's not.
I figured. I just wanted to ask, 'cause that's the only thing anyone else has been watching the past couple days.
No, I understand that, but yeah, it's not really a sport we cover here on Sports by Compian because they don't tackle each other, so it's not of interest to me.
It's okay. I'll take my 3 laughs for mentioning basketball after this.
But there's been multiple people trying to convince me that we need to cover it, and I'm like, no, we will not. But
No, I mean, I figured you just didn't really care, which is fine. I just wanted to
yeah.
ask.
I mean, I see it going on, and I'm like, yeah, good for it. I mean, it should be interesting. Well, while we're here, who are you picking to win it? They're down to this week 16, right?
Doesn't matter who I pick. They all lost.
Oh, really?
Indiana lost. Stupid Arizona lost to Princeton.
Oh, really? I did. Weren't they like really good? Yeah, I've heard about
Arizona
that one.
was the 2 seed, and Princeton was the 15th seed.
Oh, wow.
And then my other bracket, like my winner is Baylor, and Baylor's still alive, I think, unless they lost to Creighton. I don't know, but that bracket I got like everything else wrong, so I wasn't even really following at that point. Yeah,
That's unfortunate.
I mean, I don't really watch college basketball. I don't really like actually put my brain into these picks. What I do is I look up like what the percentage chance is for like each seed to beat each other seed. Then I'll spin a random number generator and like whatever number it lands on, like if it lands outside that like percentage range, I'll choose the upset. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
like, you literally can't predict these things. Like you have to rely on like an element of randomness.
For sure.
And I don't know college basketball, and B, I did this once and I won money 2 years ago, I think, in my bracket with this strategy. I felt like a dick, but like at the same time, I've been making brackets my whole life trying to like actually predict the right things and getting them wrong every single time. So
and now
I'm letting the computers do it going forward.
Let me ask you something. So, for example, so that's probably not like the best example for me or you because we don't know shit about college basketball. But so, for example, people like who are buying stocks and stuff, right? So you're basically betting on this company is going to do super well, and that's why your money's going to do well. And you're basing this bet off of all you know about this company based on your research you've done on them, right? So, in a way, you're still gambling though, because you don't know how the fuck the market really is going to go, and it could go up or down. And if anyone really knew for sure, you'd be making a shitload of money on the stock market, no problems asked. But so these people know about businesses. My thing is, me and you know about the NFL. So if we're making bets on a Sunday, is that really gambling, or is it us just working the stock market based on the teams we know and the companies we know? You know what I mean? Like, I still get some bets wrong. But sometimes I'm on FanDuel and I look at a bet, I'm like, what? This is super fucking easy. And I'll just fucking grab it, and sure enough, I fucking win. And I'm like, I should even put more on that one. So basically what I'm asking is it irresponsible to consider gambling? I mean, if you just know more about that than you know about a company. Like, so what's the difference? Like, I don't know shit about a lot of companies, and yet you invest with them, and they consider that to be responsible.
I would say tomato. I think an interesting concept that I thought of as you were saying that would be like NFL index funds, where like you could like bet on a bunch of different teams and like gradually.
Some kind of mutual funds. Are you not willing to risk a lot? All right, don't worry. Just put it up.
Depends, because there's stuff that's like betting a future on something that like is super likely to hit. Maybe you could consider that investing, but then I think there's other shit like the 12-leg parlays that people will throw together. That's like betting on some like third world country cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
That's something that like definitely not an investment.
Right, but if it does hit, you're like you're gonna kill it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So you gotta go for like the safe bets. Like, so for example, there was a Super Bowl parlay, and everything else hit on it except for what I would consider to be the most easiest thing of them all, which was Patrick Mahomes for over 225 yards passing. Instead, the Chiefs go on to just run the ball for most of the game, and Patrick Mahomes did not hit 225 yards passing, which was crazy. Because that's almost like a safe bet. So it's just like to go to show. No safe bets.
One thing to take into consideration is that the Chiefs got a lot of yards off of defense and special teams too. They had that fumble return for a touchdown that counted for 7 of their points. The one that Jalen Hurts dropped the ball for no reason.
Yep.
And then there was that big punt return by, I think it was Kadarius Toney at the end.
Yeah.
That set them up pretty much right in front of the end zone. So that was a lot of passing yards that Mahomes didn't have to get touchdowns for the Chiefs.
What's your stance on Kadarius Toney? I never really liked the guy, but man, it's hard to deny that. Like he seemed to have done a little bit better over there with KC.
Yeah, he has a lot of flashes. I think I don't really know what his beef with the Giants is, to be honest, but seems like he wasn't really that injured, even though he seemed like he was super injured in the Giants.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was and then he got better. But I remember he like mocked his hamstring injury, like doing some celebration. He like pretended to limp into the end zone for the Chiefs. And that was like a little tongue in cheek about what was going on with him and the Giants because they didn't see eye to eye on his injury.
Yeah, I don't know. He seems like a strange fellow, but he's still young. We'll see what happens.
It's a good fit, but I think anyone's a good fit in that offense at the same time.
Yeah,
like,
it seems
he's
like
in the
it.
best position for himself.
Like they're making Juju Smith-Schuster look good over there. Which no offense to your big receiver signing there, Coop. Let's go through it.
Juju.
Let's go through it because
we'll
the
talk about the
AFC.
Patriots when we get there.
Yeah, so
my opinions on the Patriots.
Real quick, Buffalo Bills. They haven't really done much. They kind of re-signed Jordan Poyer was kind of their biggest one. Kyle Allen, absolute champion, just comes back to them or signed with them.
Yeah, I'm surprised they re-signed Poyer. I thought he was gone.
Yeah, me too. But they lost the other one. Jordan Poyer.
Like a Hyde.
Hyde, yeah, they lost Hyde, right?
I'm not sure. Jesse Bates went to Atlanta. I remember that, and he was the big one that I wanted the Patriots to get.
Yeah, Jesse Bates. Oh, yeah, that's where he went. Yeah, he's good, Jesse Bates.
And then, did Micah Hyde walk? I don't think he did. Yeah, he's still on the Bills.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then, Dolphins signed the absolute champion. Otherwise,
also, I want to say
White.
I think the Bills are going to sign Bobby Wagner. My
last
thing. Yeah.
Well, that would make sense. Get another veteran in there. Why not? I mean, although the linebacker they have there is great. What's his name?
Milano.
Number 49. Edmonds.
No, Edmonds is gone. He's on Chicago now.
No way. Wow.
I still have Matt Milano, who's probably a little bit better than Edmonds in my opinion.
Really?
But yeah, they need to replace what's his face, Tremaine Edmonds. The Bears loaded up at linebacker. They got him and TJ Edwards, but we're on the Dolphins now, so we'll stay focused.
Yeah, let's stay focused. So we got Mike White, the absolute legend, is re-signed with the Miami Dolphins. You love to see it because he's going to get some opportunities to throw the ball down there because Tua's going to go down. Hate to say it, love you, Tua. Hope you survive through the whole season, but the reality is he probably won't. So Mike White will still get some opportunities to get out there. They re-signed all their running backs, which is pretty funny. And that's about it. So we'll see what else they might do. Oh, yeah, and then they acquired Jalen Ramsey in a trade, which honestly was a great trade. For a third-round pick, you're getting Jalen Ramsey in the door. Not a bad pick at all. I love it.
It's a good segue, too, because the fact that they were able to give up that little to get Jalen Ramsey, not that it's the same position, but it makes me wonder what the true asking price for DeAndre Hopkins is. And I really want the Patriots to go after him. So it's good to run the Patriots now.
Well, especially if you consider what the asking price was for him last time. Like, not much. Like a second-round pick and a third-round pick, and like David Johnson, who was done at the time.
Yeah. Also, Brandon Cooks just went to Dallas for a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was like a 5th-round pick.
Oh, it was a 5th and a 6th. It was both. Yeah.
Which I thought was them kind of overpaying, if anything.
Yeah, I think Cook still owes him in the tank, but I think
I do too. But
about him because he played for Houston.
What it is his salary is really big. So I wonder if Houston's picking up with these. Are they picking up like part of that salary too, in order to make this a decent deal for Dallas? That's got to be it, right?
I'm not sure. I didn't see all the details of it. Are they still getting from that Rams contract?
I don't know who it is, but he has a huge salary. That's what Rappaport was mentioning on Pat McAfee. So I wonder if the fact that this pick wasn't that great for Dallas, I wonder if it's because Houston's picking up some of the contract, some of the salary.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I remember the Rams gave him like 5 for 85, I think, after the Patriots traded him. And I can't remember if that was like more than 5 years ago or not. I think it might have been.
It was a while ago. I had even kind of forgotten he played for them. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's been everywhere. He's the most player in the league history besides Eric Dickerson, I think.
Really?
I think he might be number 1 now, actually.
It's got to be
Dickerson's been traded
because so what? So he got traded from New Orleans to the Patriots, from the Patriots to the Rams, and then from the Rams now to Dallas.
The Texans, and then to.
Oh yeah. Where he literally almost fell off, but he would still pop up every once in a while. And you'd be like, oh yeah, that's right, Brandon Cooks is still a guy.
Yeah, he was a good fantasy waiver wire plug-in when your receiver went down. Yeah.
Yep. I like this signing of James Robinson. I really hope he can get his career back on pace. You know, I feel like fucking what's that asshole's name? Fucking the coach they had down there for the Jacksonville Jaguars who got fired like right away.
Urban Meyer.
I feel like he kind of ruined James Robinson or something. Like I don't know. He just has never been the same since Urban Meyer went down there.
I don't know. I mean, I think his rookie season where he broke out as the fantasy sleeper that no one drafted but ended up having a really good year. I think he got a ton of carries that year, and a lot of his numbers, he had a great season, but I think a lot of it was due to him getting a ton of just touches in general. And now that he started the season with ETN sharing the backfield with him, and it seemed like Robinson was having a pretty promising start with Jacksonville. The first game he had more fantasy points than ETN. And they were splitting carries for the first couple of games, and then Robinson got traded to the Jets, played shit against the Patriots, and then the Jets kind of just lost faith in him and never put him back in. So
I was wondering what the hell happened.
I'm not really sure what he's worth right now because I haven't seen him play most of last season because the Jets had him on the bench.
Well, Bill must
have a little bit concerning to me, but I've seen what he's capable of, and I've always liked him as a running back. And we can't put all this pressure on Ramondre Stevenson to be our workhorse. I think it's better that we sign someone a little more up to speed, especially if we don't feel comfortable with our current running back depth, which is Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris, who are both going into their second year. We didn't really see a lot of playing time last year, at least until the end of the season.
Well, and with Robinson too, I mean, Bill must have saw something in that one game where he apparently sucked. He must have been like, oh, well, I think I could do this. And,
yeah, I mean, that's just classic Belichick. I mean, that's any coach,
Yeah, absolutely.
So many coaches, if they get burned by a player, they'll target that player next season.
Yeah. Well,
Belichick loves Mike Gesicki. He always talks about Gesicki.
That's a good signing. And for a 1-year deal, too, that's a really good signing, I feel like. Bring him in.
Yeah, well, the thing is last year, on top of all the bullshit with our coordinators and whatnot, our red zone offense was atrocious. Our red zone offense was terrible. We didn't have receivers get yards after the catch. We had guys who had good hands and were able to run decent routes, but I think the reason that we let Jacoby Myers walk and then sign Juju for the same amount of money is that Juju can take a little bit of the heat off of Mac, whereas Myers, once you got the ball to him, he wasn't getting much further once he went into contact. But Juju could run a slant across the middle and maybe break 1 or 2 tackles and take the offense downfield that way. And I think he's going to be really good to have in the red zone. And I think Mike Gesicki is going to be great to have in the red zone, too. He's a massive target.
Yeah.
And a big focus of ours, I think, going into this season is fixing our red zone offense because it was dead last in the NFL in efficiency last year.
Huh. Well, yeah, that makes sense. And what do you think about Mac Jones? Even with, can he do this, dude?
There was a sequence, I think it was against Bengals, maybe. We were on our 1-yard line, on the goal line. We called a timeout, had a false start, got sacked, called another timeout. It was the most disastrous series I've ever seen in my life. And it was on the 1-yard line. And that just perfectly encapsulated the Patriots season.
Ugh.
I want to see if I can find it and send it to you at some point because it's actually hilarious how incompetent an NFL team managed to look, let alone an NFL team that's coached by Bill Belichick of all people.
Interesting. So you think this is a lot on what happened to Mac Jones year 2? Why did it not seem to be clicking? Do you think there's a lot of this on the coordinators?
I'm not blaming Mac for anything. Fuck anyone who is trying to write off Mac for this disaster of a season that he had no control over. Our receivers were running into each other on their routes. Our protection was terrible for a while. We lost our starting center for a little bit, and Mac had no time to throw. He's getting pressured by guys, and the receivers' routes haven't even developed yet. We didn't adjust our offense at all to account for the fact that Mac was getting his ass kicked, 80 times a game. He didn't really have a lot of good safety valve options. outside of Ramondre Stevenson and Johnny Smith was supposed to be that guy, and we traded him to Atlanta because I guess we just couldn't figure out what to do with him.
Yeah, I mean, he was there for like 2 years and just never really did anything.
Yeah, Johnny Smith looked like a really good athlete and ball carrier when we got the ball in his hands, but it seemed like his only real use was in the screen passes and the short game. He didn't seem like he was getting open or really running routes, and I think he just kind of wasn't on the same page as the rest of the offense sometimes, and eventually Belichick's going to get tired of that and sends
He
it
seems like a
to the
strange
wayside.
player. Like, he got that big deal and got traded over there after coming up from the Titans. I feel like he never really did anything with the Titans. He was kind of like the main backup to Delaney Walker. When it finally
He had
was
a good
his time,
season
he had came in
leading
and
up
had
to his contract.
he had like one good season, right, with the Titans, and then got traded away.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe but I feel like he's one of these guys who just kind of looks the part, and so people keep on giving him opportunities and money.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that Arthur Smith, who he had at Tennessee, is now with Atlanta.
Yeah.
And Arthur Smith was the one that got the best football out of him. So I hope better days are ahead for Jonnu. I have nothing against the guy, but it just didn't really work out in New England.
Well, fair enough. He's off. Any other of these signings you're excited about?
Yeah, Chris Board. This is a classic Patriots signing. You know who Chris Board is?
No.
Yeah, I didn't either until 2 days ago. I don't think anyone does. According to Bill Belichick, he was the best special teams player they were going to play against all season last year. He was a linebacker on the Lions,
Okay.
and Belichick says this guy's like the ultimate special teams Swiss Army knife. And last year, the Patriots uncharacteristically had a really shitty special teams. Normally, our special teams is one of the sharpest in the NFL, but we gave up quite a few return touchdowns. Our punter, Jake Bailey, was garbage. He was a Pro Bowler at one point, but he had the worst net punt average in the NFL last year. It was a pretty uncharacteristically sloppy year for the Patriots in all facets, but for special teams, it's a little bit worse to see because that's one thing you always expect them to excel in, especially with Matt Slater, as the, great NFL special teamer of our era. But yeah, I like the Chris Board signing a lot. I think he's a
Matt
really good
Slater,
use.
yeah, he is one of the biggest special teams guys out there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then Darrell
Um,
Peppers is back, huh?
yeah, I like Jonathan Jones and Jabril Peppers coming back. Continuity in the secondary is always, I think, more valuable than people give it credit for. And I think we're gonna target corner in the draft too. So we have Jonathan Jones back, right? He's gonna be our slot guy most likely. Um, we're talking to Taylor Rapp from the Rams, and he's kind of like a versatile corner, safety, and nickel, wherever you want to put him, he'll play. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think we're gonna target corner in the draft, and then the rumor is that we're not going to try to get a true replacement for Devin McCourty at free safety, and we might just float around all of our other safeties, which don't have the same exact skill set as McCourty. A lot of them are versatile, safety / box players, like Peppers, Kyle Duggar, Adrian Phillips. But yeah, we got a lot of tackle depth. I think we're gonna go at least one more potential quality starter at tackle, and I think we're gonna go corner. Yeah,
So that makes sense.
Patriots wrap up.
First round pick corner.
Yeah.
What's your overall prediction? Do you think it's going to be pretty nasty in that division this year?
Yeah, it's gonna suck. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
the
it's going to
Jets,
blow.
the Jets, were actually pretty good last year. They didn't even have a real quarterback, and now they have a Hall of Famer. Everyone's
I mean,
writing off Rodgers, but
it's not a done deal yet. But yes, he appears to be coming to town, which is very
that's also a
inconvenient.
very good point. It would be very Jets for this to somehow not work out after Rodgers basically said he was ready to play for them.
Yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see what they have to give up for him because now it's I feel like Packers were the team that had a disadvantage in the negotiation section of all this. And now I feel like the Jets are, because I feel like now they have the Jets in this stronghold where it's you got to give us what we want, or else we're
yeah,
not going to give you Aaron Rodgers.
100%. Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah,
You can't go back to your fan base and be like, oh, by the way, guys, it didn't really work out. Actually, the Packers like the Jets have to make this happen. The
Yeah.
Jets fans, like Sailor, will never watch the Jets again if they do this to him. If they don't get Aaron Rodgers after all this, like they have to make that happen. But even if they give up like a ton of first round picks or like whatever it ends up being, like they're going to be a pretty solid team next year. I think they'll probably be better than the Dolphins next year. The Bills are good as always. The Bills got a little bit worse. I'd say the Jets got a lot better. And the Dolphins kind of stayed the same. But the big question with the Dolphins is Tua. Like, is he going
Yep.
to play all season? Like, did he pass concussion protocol, or are we just like lying about that?
Right.
Is Mike White gonna take the Dolphins to the
Is
playoffs
Mike White the
year? I
guy?
don't know.
We don't know.
I mean, that's got to be why they signed him. They needed the quality backup, and Mike White is a quality backup. So.
Absolutely. I think everyone's a little enthralled with Mike White. I don't know what's going to happen with him. But we get way too excited about Mike White on this show way too often, so we got to calm down about him. Anyway, Alan Lazard is over there with the Jets, hanging out with potentially his buddy, and their unvaccinated lives, him and Rodgers. We'll see if they can continue their evil ways there in New York. God damn them. And then, of course, we got a guard signed for them. Solomon Thomas resigns. Quentin Williams resigns with them as well. So that's a good sign for them.
Relatively quiet offseason for the Jets, but that's also due in part to the fact that they're being held hostage by this Rodgers situation right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like they got a safety, looks like a depth slash special teams guy. Anyway, the Baltimore Ravens can't decide what they want to do with Lamar Jackson. They have a non-exclusive franchise tag on him, so they don't really know what the heck they're doing. Apparently, so this means with the non-exclusive franchise tag, that means that other teams can come in and match that? Is that what it means? Like, I'm a little confused with the non-exclusive and exclusive franchise tag. I'm not sure I really care that much, though.
Point is that Rodgers is still, or not Rodgers, Lamar's still available. Like, it doesn't mean that he's guaranteed to be a Raven next year. But it's going to be a tricky, complicated process to make the deal done. And it seems like the consensus, like around the league, is that no one's willing to do what the Ravens want to do to get Jackson. And I don't think people think he's worth the money that he wants either.
That appears to be the main thing of everything going on right now. Is nobody thinks that he's worth what he thinks he's worth. I mean, honestly, it does suck, but I don't know. I'm still not like completely convinced that he's going to be worth this price. Like, obviously, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but is he?
I got two things to say on that subject. One, I think he is, but the problem is that he was absent in December the last two seasons.
Yeah.
So that's like definitely playing into it. He spends a lot of time off the field, unfortunately. And then the other thing is, I think after the Deshaun Watson deal went down, where the Browns just gave him like an idiotic amount of guaranteed money.
Yeah.
The theory is that the owners are like kind of getting together and like colluding right now to say we're not going to give any more of these guys these massive guaranteed contracts.
Well, I mean,
the Browns set a really like crazy precedent by giving
that was
Watson
crazy,
money,
dude. That deal was insane, and that's why Lamar probably hasn't signed. He's like, well, I mean, I should have that at least, like Deshaun Watson wasn't
that money anyways. Like
that was insane.
Money to a guy who's under investigation.
It was so crazy, dude. That was such a crazy ass contract. Holy shit!
And it's put everybody else in the NFL in this spot now, like this really strange spot where the standard has been set for Deshaun Watson. And normally when the standard's set, that's just how it is, and everyone just plays off of it. But yeah, this Ravens thing might be a stalemate for a while. We might not know what's happening with Lamar Jackson for a couple of weeks.
Maybe even longer. Which people will continue to talk about. We will mildly cover it, but that's the situation with the Baltimore Ravens. Meanwhile, the Cincinnati Bengals continue to lock down support for Mr. Burrow himself. They're going to make sure that nobody's hitting him this year, coming year, or at least not right away. I like the trade for Jacoby Ford. Well, the signing, and of course, the Orlando Brown signing is huge.
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere because they had to release Jonah Williams, or they didn't release Jonah Williams.
But they still got him, don't they? I think they
Hold
still
on.
have him. He wants to play
There's
left.
a tackle on the Bengals that wants out now because they signed
Yeah,
him.
it's Jonah Williams. He plays left
Yeah,
tackle.
yeah.
He plays left tackle. So, I guess he doesn't want to move to right. And so now you're trying to trade him, but, they're trading him, and teams know that he wants to get traded. So that part's not great,
Yeah.
but they definitely are probably getting an upgrade with Orlando Brown. You're getting an experienced guy who's played with all kinds of good quarterbacks at this point. They're getting serious about their protecting Burrow over there.
Yeah, exactly. But that also opens the door for a team that needs a tackle that maybe wasn't willing to give Orlando Brown $64 million.
Yeah. And now are you bringing in a tight end? Because, they had, Hayden Hurts last year, and, nothing against Hayden Hurts, but he was not a great fantasy option. So I wouldn't mind seeing some decent tight ends come out of the Bengals again.
He went to Carolina. He's no longer on the Bengals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's not even an option anymore.
Yeah.
They really need a tight end now. So, yeah, maybe you go get a tight end with that pick. Maybe they're going to, pick somebody. I guess we'll see. Joshua Dobbs. Man, this Joshua Dobbs guy. Really sad to Cooper, but somebody stole his eyebrows. Either way, he agrees, and he is playing with the Browns now. He's also signed a tight end. It doesn't look like they had too many big signings. I guess the edge Agabar. He's from the Dolphins, right?
Who?
The edge Agabar.
Yeah, he was a pretty highly coveted free agent going into this offseason, so I don't know much about him, to be honest. I think he was on the Texans, right?
I thought he was with the Dolphins. But
either way, he was like a lower profile guy. They let Jadeveon Clowney walk because they basically kicked him off.
You were right. You were right. He's
Texans.
the Texan.
Clowney was their defensive end alongside Garrett, and then he kind of ran his mouth at the end of the season and didn't let him play in the last game.
Yeah.
And now Clowney is once again on the market, which seems like it's a yearly thing now.
Not looking good for him to finish out his career.
His value just gets lower and lower every year that he goes back to the market. It's a shame.
If somebody has ever made
a big multi-year contract.
Man, there's plays that make players, right? And I don't know if there's ever been such a play that made Jadeveon Clowney like that play yet against that poor Michigan running back, where he just breaks through the backfield and just destroys the poor kid.
The ultimate ball don't lie play, because they didn't get the ball on that fourth down stop before that, and they thought they got kind of slighted by the spot on 4th and short. And then the very next play, Clowney did that. So that was a very ball don't lie moment.
Well, that play made him a shitload of money, and it will probably continue to make him money because people are going to continue to give him some opportunities. Pittsburgh Steelers, they are not signing or really doing much of anything, which is not too surprising. They never really do.
Yeah, they'll be fine though. They'll quietly be pushing for a playoff spot in December.
100%, no doubt about it. They're going to get the best out of Pickens. They are obviously getting some guards to defend him.
The O-line needed work, actually. I like those two signings.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Who's this guy? He got paid.
He was an
Isaac.
Eagle.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, one of those guys, so they're good. That offensive line was amazing last year. Apologize to the people out there. I am definitely losing my voice for this pod. It's part of life out there. Casey Keenum is still in the league, and he's still getting paid to play football.
Good for him.
Good for him, indeed. Noah Brown comes over from the Cowboys. Robert Woods comes over as well. Robert Woods has been on the move lately. He finds himself with the Texans. Probably will have a handful of good fantasy weeks out of him. Brandon Cooks, they traded him away. He had kind of an
off year in Tennessee after his ACL surgery, so this is his big chance to have another good year and secure another bag.
I didn't see Dalton Schultz had signed somewhere, so good for him. Finds a home with the Texans on a $9 million contract. Larry Tunsil is also staying in Houston.
Yeah, I love the Shaq Mason trade.
Yeah, Shaq Mason trade was really good for them. It was kind of a cap dump off for us. We just unfortunately are in the cap hell right now, which is very sad because we don't have a lot of players right now. But
they've been busy.
We've been busy just cutting people and re-signing people. It's kind of a mess. It's not looking great.
Yeah.
No, we'll get to them in a minute, but yeah, no, it's not looking good. Damn, dude, the Texans are fucking doing shit. Look at these guys. That's a shitload of free agents. So yeah, they signed a boatload of people. We'll see how that team looks next year. Sheldon Rakin's still over there making some good money.
This is right now for this draft. We'll see who ends up in their hands. At currently they have pick number 2, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Carolina getting number 1 was kind of a surprise. Stealing that. I thought the Colts were going to do it, but it'll be interesting. I think a lot of people are saying that Carolina wants Richardson and the Texans are going to get Bryce Young. I'm not really the most knowledgeable on like the draft prospects in college football and whatnot, so I really couldn't say who I would prefer. But it looks like they're both going quarterback.
It's going to be really interesting. I'm glad that's coming soon, so we get to kind of see it play out. But the Colts are going to go with Gardner Minshew. They do like a veteran presence in that quarterback room if we know anything for sure. Matt Gay gets a big deal with them and goes over there for actually $22 million.
I bet Minshew won't start. I bet they're going to draft someone too.
Oh, absolutely.
Minshew starts the first couple of games. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're definitely trying to draft somebody. But Gay, a former Buccaneer, gets paid. He is still playing pretty good football ever since he left the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Jaguars are signing C.J. Beathard, former 49er. I'm not sure where he was last year. And Evan Ingram gets a franchise tag. That's about it.
Nothing crazy. They spent a lot last offseason on their roster.
Which they look good. You know, if they can just continue to build on what they have, they'll be fine. The Tennessee Titans don't look like they did too much of anything either. They had to do a lot of cuttings this year. They do sign Sean Murphy-Bunting from the Buccaneers, which is news to me. Sean Murphy-Bunting had his moments. Definitely was a huge contributor in our playoff run. Had some key interceptions, really big controversial one against the Packers. Depends on who you ask. Your boy, of course, believes it was totally clean. But anyway, he moves on from the Buccaneers, and best of luck to him. He had a really kind of a rough last 2 years, so this is not too surprising that the Buccaneers let him go.
The Titans are weirdly in a downward spiral right now.
Yeah, they are.
Like they were like one of the future top teams of the NFL.
Absolutely, I'm a little worried for Vrabel's job. Yeah, he might be losing that job soon. But he's got to have a good year, and he just doesn't have the roster behind him right now. So we'll see what happens.
Jason Stidham been busy as shit right here. The Broncos.
Yeah, they have. Goddamn. Well, they got a brand new coach over there. Brand new team. Looks like they're putting down behind him because they got Jason Stidham, which we were all shocked by that game he had. So we'll see if he has anything left in the tank. If he could be a real quarterback. Former Packer, of course. Patriot. What do you have to say about your boys Stidham there, Coop?
Stid the kid. Original Brady replacement until Cam Newton came along. Well, when he was with New England, I didn't really have a chance to really form an opinion on him. He didn't get in that much. When he backed up Brady, Brady never leaves games unless he absolutely has to, So
exactly.
Stidham came in one game against the Jets when we were killing the Jets, and he threw a pick 6 to Jamal Adams, which looked pretty bad. And I didn't want to judge him obviously off of that one shitty decision, but so the next season, right? Cam Newton gets COVID right before the Chiefs game, which is the biggest game for us at that point, and we put in Brian Hoyer instead of Jarrett Stidham, which. That was me being like, okay, this is how we feel about Jarrett Stidham if we're putting in Brian Hoyer to start this game and not him. So I didn't think much of him, honestly, when he went to the Raiders, but I'm super impressed by what he did against the 49ers this year.
Yeah.
And I think there was a chance that he would start for the Raiders next year, but Garoppolo made too much sense. Both of these guys are Josh McDaniels guys,
Yeah.
Stidham and Garoppolo.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, good for Stid.
Good for
Maybe
Stid,
he
man.
will start this year if Russell Wilson can't get it together.
Yeah, that's the thing. You might be able to actually provide a little bit of competition there for Russell Wilson, but they're definitely bringing in protection for Russell, bringing in Ben Powers, Mike McGlinchey, so they're setting up some protection, much like what the fucking Bengals were doing. I'm sure some other key signings here as well. We do got to move this along a little bit quicker here. The Chiefs do sign Jawan Taylor to actually a pretty huge deal.
Yeah,
he's a younger player.
Champs, they're fine. Yeah,
makes sense. You got to go ahead and continue to protect Patrick Mahomes. They do actually sign Mike Evans as well, another former Buccaneer. had his points, never really started for us, so maybe he'll get a better chance over here with the Kansas City Chiefs. Jimmy Garoppolo signs with the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a consistent quarterback. This is a winning quarterback. I saw he actually has one of the highest winning percentages in the whole NFL. Coop, will he continue to do with these Las Vegas Raiders? Only time will tell. But they have re-signed Josh Jacobs via the franchise tag to help him out. They're bringing in O.J. Howard, former Buccaneer, former Texan, former tight end who looks great and hasn't done anything. Jacoby Myers from the Patriots coming over there as well. Anything to say here about these Las Vegas Raiders and what their plans for 2023, 2024 season? Coop.
I like the Raiders a lot going into this previous season, and they kind of disappointed me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be more cautious this time around. I like what they're doing with the offseason. I'm not sure if Josh McDaniels is going to be able to pull it all together because he had some problems last time he tried being a head coach.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's a good point.
Granted, that was like 10 years ago, maybe even longer. But at the end of the day, it's like your roster can be as good as it can be, but if your head coach is unproven and your quarterback is unproven, which I think Garoppolo has proven a lot, but in a sense, he's still has his doubts,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that he's been to a Super Bowl, multiple playoff games, and people definitely still doubt the guy, and maybe it's a little warranted. Well, I guess we'll have to see. But what do you guys say about these Las Vegas Chargers as they continue to try to win the battle over there in LA to be the top team?
Yeah, they'll fuck it up somehow. They always do.
Yeah, man.
They got super hurt last year, and they lost a lot of depth. And they still made the playoffs, which I was surprised by. My big season prediction last year was that the Dolphins and the Chargers were both going to sputter and not make playoffs. And I was kind of right about the Dolphins, but the AFC just sputtered along with the Dolphins, and they kind of just fell into the playoffs.
Yeah, as to the Chargers, kind of, to be fair. They kind of sucked for most of the year and sort of just picked up wins where they needed to,
I think the big thing with the Chargers is they held on to their to Keenan Allen. I thought he was going to be gone for sure this offseason.
Yeah.
Everyone was writing him off as a salary cap cut.
Yeah, big re-signing by them, and they do get Eric Kendricks, former Viking. And then we move into the
talented enough to win. They're running out of excuses to be doing this in Justin Herbert's first contract.
Yeah, hopefully Herbert.
So often.
Hopefully Herbert can get some pieces around him, but they do have some receivers, so it's just they just need to do the right things. But last playoff game was an absolute disaster for them. So I think if they have something similar, that coach is for sure catching it. Now, the coach, they're Stenny.
Oh yeah.
If you have something like what happened in that last playoff game happen again, that's it, man. He's gonna be gone. There's too much talent on that team to be losing like that,
Yeah, exactly. And your young quarterback still has this monkey on his back now that he hasn't won a playoff game.
Right. And dude, Trevor Lawrence had 4 interceptions in that game, I'm pretty sure. 4.
All to Asante Samuel.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
How do you lose that?
Yeah, the Chargers were primed for a lot of success this year, and now their quarterback doesn't have a playoff win still, and Daniel Jones does.
Right. So yeah, very crazy times in the world. Speaking of Daniel Jones, let's head to the NFC East. Cooper Rush is re-signing with the Cowboys. This is a good signing for the Cowboys. I think a lot of people were eyeing up Cooper Rush after a couple good games from him last year.
They decide, always good to have.
For sure. And they decided to stick with Tony Pollard over their boy Ezekiel. They bring in Brandon Cooks in a trading. They re-sign Van Der Esch. They acquire Stephon in a trade as well. So it's two pretty big trades for them to try to get this Cowboys team over the hump, dude. Can it be done? Will they ever be real? Is Dak Prescott that guy?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if Dak Prescott's that guy, but I do think they can eventually figure it out someday. I wish them the best though. All my family are Cowboys fans, so hopefully they can stop sucking.
Yeah, I mean the thing is they always put together not always, but I mean recently we've seen them put together teams that feel like they're capable of beating everyone, but they're just not able to put together a complete game of football when they really need to. And usually it's because Dak Prescott falls short. In those big moments. And I don't even want to get started with that play that Zeke was playing center and got blown up, but that was his
No,
last
nobody.
game ever as a
We
Cowboy.
don't even have time to analyze that play right now,
I know, yeah.
because Daniel Jones just got paid. He got paid a big one, man. And this is kind of what we're getting back to. The quarterback market's just crazy in general, and we kind of saw this coming. Definitely a guy who proved it in his final year. I'm all here to see people get paid, but I do think I don't know. I think he still has a lot to prove for sure. Which this is kind of a reasonable deal, actually, considering that he does have a lot to prove still.
I think he kind of scored. I mean, that was the perfect situation for him because he had that one good season right before his contract.
Right.
And the thing is, I don't hate it. Um, not like totally in love with it because I just haven't seen enough from Daniel Jones, like consistency wise. But I think when a guy does what Daniel Jones did this season with as little help as the front office gave him, like I think he earned that money, and I think he earned another couple of years to be that
Yeah.
quarterback. And now they're like, okay, if this guy is our guy, then let's trade for Darren Waller. Let's franchise tag Barkley. Let's keep building our offense upward a little bit and give him all the tools it takes to get to the next level as a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean they
It
they
was
bring
pretty
back.
impressive what Daniel Jones did this year, considering the Giants had no receivers and were pretty banged up for a lot of the year.
I mean they bring back the main two receivers they have over there, Shepard and Slayton. Now they got Waller to help them out as well. They got another former Buccaneer, Raheem Noches, to shore up that D line. And by Bobby Arakovo, pretty good linebacker. So some solid signings on defense.
Yeah,
And yeah,
speaking of games where a guy cooks you and you sign him, Okereke, the linebacker, had 18 tackles against the Giants this season when he was playing for the Colts.
oh wow, okay,
Yeah, so that, fun little fact. He had 18 tackles, which is a lot.
that's a shitload.
And then the Giants signed him. So
Checks out. They're like, why was this guy
good
all over the
tryout
field
by
hitting
him.
us? Yeah, it sure was. And they paid him a lot. Good for him. Well, yeah, no, he got paid 40. Yeah, no, good for him.
Solid contract.
22 guaranteed. Like, fuck yeah. Let's go, Bobby. So yeah, I'd love to see it. Love to see a linebacker getting paid. Marcus is going over to the Eagles, and he's bringing Rashad Penny and Boston Scott with him. Boston Scott re-signing, kind of one of those flash running backs we don't get to see too often. It's good to see Jason Kelce re-signing with them. I was a little worried that he might wander off somewhere else, but I don't think he was worried or the Eagles were. And he brings back his cake. He brings back his happy smile, and they're going to see if they can run this back. They're going to bring Fletcher Cox with them as well. They're giving him 10. They're giving Kelce 14. They're even bringing back Graham. Wow, they're just bringing back all the boys. They got James Bradbury re-signed. They got Darius Slayton
Grady
re-signed.
Williams?
Dude, yeah, that's a big one. Adding Grady Williams. That's nice because they did lose that secondary receiver, right? They had like a guy in the slot they lost this year.
So Gardner Johnson just went to Detroit.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, he was safety.
I can't believe Justin Evans is still in the league, but yeah, he signs with them as well. Dude, this is honestly pretty big by them, bringing back like literally the whole squad. They're just gonna try to run it back with like all the same guys and be like, hey, we were fucking a couple plays away from winning it. Why would we change anything, And Rashad Penny's a good signing for them too. Now that you lost Miles Sanders, you gotta get something.
Yeah, I like it. They're not spending too much money in the running back room. They're gonna have a revolving door of guys, and that'll work for their offense.
So, yeah, why would you?
Hurts.
Absolutely.
Sanders is a good player though. Hurts to lose him, but I think
it does. I think they will be. He had a couple costly fumbles for them, so once again, I think he'll be okay. Where did he end up? Sure, we'll see it here in a little while.
Carolina.
Oh, that's what it was. God, everyone's headed to the South. It's sad. Jacoby Brissett signed a 1-year deal, so he will be a good backup over there at the Commanders for whoever it is they sign, because they're not going to go with Carson Wentz, and they got rid of Taylor Heineke, so they've got to be drafting somebody, right? But like, who's still going to be available? And I guess
they have Sam Howell. Sam Howell still.
Oh, that's right. Game. That's right. Yeah, they drafted him last year, right?
It seemed like they wanted to move forward with him, but I'm not gonna lie. I don't really know what's happening with Washington right now. The biggest story around the team the last couple of years has been everything besides them playing football.
So right, and they honestly have been playing some terrible
franchise that I have not been following.
They've been playing some pretty terrible football too. So yeah, it's not surprising. It does look like they've been pretty busy. Not like big names here, but some solid guys. Yeah, good for them. Cameron Dantzler, off of the Vikings. Good for him. Getting another chance. So we're going over to the NFC North. PJ Walker
offseason.
agrees to a physical. Okay. So PJ Walker, a former USFL guy. Good to see him getting another opportunity here. Devontae Foreman, this is a big deal. That's a good signing by them, man. He had a big fantasy end of the season there. Was offered him in a trade for almost nothing and didn't take him. I think the guy wanted Kareem Hunt, and I didn't take it at the time. Terrible decision.
I traded Kareem Hunt for him, ironically.
Dude, terrible decision to not take that trade because, yeah, he went on to have a great end of his season.
Yeah.
Travis Horner signs as well. No idea who that is, actually. But then, yeah, they acquired DJ Moore in a trade, dude. And, like, god damn. What? I love to see this as a Buccaneers fan, but I feel like the Panthers were on meth when they made this deal happen. Like, they moved up, like, a handful of spots, and they pretty much sold the farm for it. So, yeah, I don't know what the heck that was all about. But DJ Moore is now a Bear.
So, like, I look at that, right? The Bears obviously cashed out big time. Like, that's a jackpot trade that the Bears made. That was an awesome, if you're a Bears fan. You don't see that too much.
No.
The Panthers, they had a lot of capital to give up. Was that mainly from the Christian McCaffrey trade?
I want to say, yeah. They've also sucked for the last couple of years, so they got picks, you know.
I can't remember exactly how they acquired, like, I knew they had a lot of capital because I was looking at them as possible Lamar Jackson landing spot at first. But I mean, hopefully it's worth it for Carolina. But if it blows up in their face, they're gonna look really stupid for giving everything they just gave the Bears away.
Well, time will tell. It's gonna be a couple of years before we know the answer to that one. But Robert Tonyan also signs with the Bears. Good signing there. Nate Davis is a good signing. You know, and then as you mentioned, Edmonds is over there now, so that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that defense needed a lot of work, so it's good to see them, taking that seriously.
And then, yeah, they got a long snapper. They got T.J. Edwards also, as well as Edmonds. So Edmonds and Edwards. David Montgomery's headed over to the division rival Detroit Lions. Good for him. A little revenge football for him twice a year. Craig Reynolds resigns. I like to see that. I saw him on Hard Knocks. Seems like a good case. Relatively quiet out of these guys. They get the Gardner Johnson
secondary. Secondary is where they splashed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they needed help in that defense, honestly. There's a lot of defensive signings here, and rightfully so. That defense had moments where they were very much struggling. So, yeah, hopefully they can continue to do the turnaround we've been seeing out of the Detroit Lions. I'm all about the Dan Campbell movement. Absolutely nothing out of the Packers. This is definitely one of the smallest sheets we've seen here. If you're a Packers fan, you must just be hating life and your offseason in general. I mean, unless you believe in Jordan Love.
The thing is that the Jets might give them a little bit of good stuff to make that Rodgers deal worth it. So maybe good things are in the near future for Green Bay. But
it appears to be
probably going to be in a rebuild for a year or two.
Definitely appears to be like the guy's main focus, Gutekunst or whatever, the general manager over there. Like he's like, if it all goes our way, if it doesn't go our way, we'll have Aaron Rodgers back. So he clearly wants some serious capital. As far as maybe some players or something, I guess we'll find out soon enough. So Nick Mullins is headed over to the Vikings, and they re-signed Alexander Mattson, Josh Oliver, Marcus Davenport coming over from the Saints. That's a decent signing by the Vikings here. Byron Murphy.
Yeah. They lost Adam Thielen too. They lost Patrick Peterson, and then I guess they're replacing him with Byron Murphy.
Yeah.
And then Adam Thielen just went to Carolina too.
I really like
busy, but we'll get to them when we get to them.
I really like Thielen, but it kind of makes sense. There's kind of loaded at receiver right now between Jefferson and Kendricks, so it makes sense that they're moving on from an agent Thielen. Love to see Tyler Heineke getting another opportunity. I think we'll probably see him on the field a couple times if we see any trying to struggle at Desmond Ridder. Other than that, of course, the Juno Smith trade that they acquired, so he's back with Arthur Smith. Corey Lindstrom, pretty good signing here on a mega deal, 5-year, $100 million extension. So they re-signed their guard. That's a pretty huge deal there. They bring in another tackle as well. And as you mentioned, Jesse Bates is a big signing. I'm not happy to see Jesse Bates come into the division at all. Very solid safety out of the Bengals. But what do you have to say
he's a
about
real
the
center fielder.
real center fielder? Huh? Gets around that motherfucker. That's sad to hear. What do you think about these Carolina Panthers though? So they get Andy Dalton in the building.
They're making life as easy as possible for whoever they draft. That's what they're doing with their team right now, and I like it. I like it a lot. They're definitely setting up a good foundation for bringing in a rookie quarterback and getting him acclimated.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like they're trying their best here as they continue their rebuild. I hope they do terrible. So the New Orleans Saints, just an absolute trash organization. But I guess we could briefly cover them. They got Derek Carr in the building. Michael Thomas has restructured his deal. I fuck the Saints. Let's not even talk about them. But anyway, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So here's some information that actually matters. So Baker Mayfield, signed on. I'm happy to see it. I am a believer in the Kyle Trask train, but I'm also very happy to see a legit veteran be brought in. He's been bouncing around, hasn't been great the last couple of years, but shit, man. I hope he can turn it around because I really, really like that. As opposed to going back to the dark ages, that'd be great. And I think he can win for us a little bit faster. I didn't know we had signed Chase Edmonds. That's a good signing. Always a pretty fast running back. Good fantasy option always for some reason. It's kind of crazy. And then Lamonte David. Love this re-signing. I hope next year he'll just consider retiring depending on how he does this year. Kind of a little bit more of a down year for him last year for sure, but I was very, very happy we brought him back. I want him to retire a buck. And then Anthony Nelson re-signs with us again. That's big. Kid came on in his final year. We've been bringing him up slowly, fourth round pick from us 4 years ago. Just literally built this kid up because by his final year, finally had about 8 sacks or so, led the team. So love to see the re-signing so he doesn't take that talent to other teams. Jamel Dean is also a really good re-signing for us. We need to shore up our secondary, and Dean was by far whenever Carl Murphy, what's his fucking name? Carlton went down with some injuries. Dean definitely stepped up and had some very good games. So happy to see him re-signed as well. The Buccaneers are doing what we can. It's kind of a rebuild year where we've had some painful cuts this year. Donovan Smith, appreciated his time here. Of course, playoff Lenny. I was definitely sad to see Cameron Brate go as well. Understood it, but yeah, he is somewhere. But he is, man, that dude's one of our all-time leading touchdown receptions. I think he's number 2 or number 3 on our list. It's kind of crazy. So, yeah.
That was question marks for that whole division right now. I think the draft's going to decide
100%.
where things shake out.
People are talking piles of shit about those teams. People are talking piles of shit about the division, and I guess rightfully so. They were the worst division last year, and this offseason hasn't exactly looked strong for, really anyone besides the Saints, I guess. Probably have looked the best. But fuck them.
Yeah, I'd say the Saints look the best right now, but there's still a lot of holes to be filled, and a lot of these teams have pretty solid spots in the draft. So,
yeah,
definitely anyone's division right now. Also, Cameron Brate, currently a free agent, not signed to a team right now.
Someone should get him on their roster. Solid red zone threat. Hell of a guy. Harvard grad, just so you know. Very intelligent. So the Cardinals, man, they absolutely botched their opportunity to be a good team last year, and they sent J.J. Watt off into retirement with very little wins. But whatever. They do re-sign Kevin Mitchum, who had a very good year. Will Anderson is also re-signed, even though he was out with injury for a lot of last year, but solid when he is in there. And that's pretty much all they're doing right now. They got Zach Pascal over there, but yeah. Doesn't seem like they're making any big moves. They're apparently moving away from DeAndre Hopkins. So yeah, I think dumpster fire is an accurate description. Although that all said, this is what who's over there for their coaching situation?
They just signed Jonathan Gannon, who was the Eagles defensive coordinator last season. Who all things considered had a solid season for most of the year.
But Eagles fans. Yeah, Eagles fans have been talking piles of shit about that guy, so we'll see what happens, man. The Rams have done nothing, which isn't too surprising. They're in cap hell as well, so just trying their best to stay afloat. The 49ers got Sam Darnold over there, a very handsome young man, and he will
They'll
continue to
never
go.
let a repeat of that playoff game happen again with the quarterback situation.
Oh, yeah.
I was signing like that coming from a mile away.
Man, and I love Josh Johnson, but yeah, Josh Johnson's had an incredible career. It's just amazing that guy played in the XFL, USFL, come back to the NFL. It's crazy. Good for Josh Johnson.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
a lot of money over the course of his
dude struggled in the
other football league career.
He struggled in that playoff game, and I mean, he got injured ultimately. So rough go of it for him for sure. Other than that, they bring in Colin Farrell, who's a great signing in Madden. Excellent speed rusher in Madden. But as far as real life, I don't know how he is.
Javon Hargrave's the big one. That was their big signing this
Yeah,
offseason.
that is a big signing. Javon Hargraves just comes in and provides some excellent stability for them at defensive tackle. And that's about it. Yeah, they're bringing in some other signings that, other players here. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks, they re-signed Geno Smith. They re-signed Drew Lock. They're locking down their quarterback room. Other than that, they're not doing much of anything, are they, Coop?
I think they're going to stay busy. I mean, I think right now they're, surprised by how good Geno is, and they're like, holy shit, we actually have a 3-year Super Bowl window now if we can make the most of this. They just signed Devin Bush,
Super Bowl
who
guy, Coop?
sucks according to Steelers fans.
Which one does?
What was that?
Who sucks?
Bush, apparently, according to the internet. And
Devin Bush. Yeah, no. I've actually heard that before about Devin Bush. People are not always happy with this guy. But he's going to get another opportunity to prove them wrong, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much wrapping up the NFL and free agency so far. The NFL draft is around the corner, probably about a month or so from now. So, Coop, before we leave, these fine people here, do you have any words that you would like to transpire to any young rugby/football players who are coming up into the world and just want to know about greatness? Do you have any parting words for them?
To any young rugby/football players coming up into the world, my advice is quit football and keep playing rugby.
Quit football and keep playing rugby?
Quit football and keep playing rugby.
What if they're really good at football, though? They're definitely going to get paid more.
But they're probably better at rugby because, yeah.
But they're not going to get paid
I don't know.
much.
It depends, I guess. But
Yeah,
if you're going to the NFL, that's one thing. But
but most guys are not going to go
to the NFL. Play rugby instead.
And this is good advice, actually. You know what? I condone that 100%. And with that, Sports by Compian is out.